So I was thinking.
Oh.
About a week ago, I found myself browsing through the Nintendo eShop, looking at all the old games available on the Virtual Console, when I came across Super Mario Land, the very first game I owned for the original Game Boy I had as a kid. Well, apart from Tetris, everyone owned Tetris, and I felt a pang of nostalgia I'd not felt in a very long time. As I sat there looking at the monochrome screenshots of those tiny sprites, it suddenly dawned on me that Mario has been rescuing the same girl for a long time. Okay, so in Super Mario Land, it was a girl called Daisy. What can I say? The guy's a bit of a player when it comes to the ladies. And that got me wondering. From a real life perspective, what was his motivation? What could the reason be to give this little plumber the drive to continuously put himself and his brother in peril? At first I thought about the financial gains. There he is, running around the Mushroom Kingdom, picking up coins carelessly left all over the place, unclaimed by anyone. Who wouldn't pick them up? He collects a lot of gold throughout each game, surely enough to be able to hang up the tool belt and live at a comfortable level. And then it hit me, it couldn't be about the money. You see, the thing about being motivated by material gain is you eventually get to the point where the accumulation of those materials outweigh the effort needed in order to accumulate them. In other words, when you have enough cash to see you good for the rest of your 3 lives, why bother carrying on? He could slap that gold into a high interest account and live off the interest from his mansion in the Bahamas. So what else? Could it be his sense of justice? After all, Princess Peach is the head of state, the leader of the Mushroom Kingdom. Surely it would be the right thing to do. The fact of the matter is, the right thing is purely subjective here. When you break it down, can you really justify the hundreds, if not thousands of creatures killed by Mario just to get to Peach? Note I say creatures, not enemies. These are the natural inhabitants of the Mushroom Kingdom. Now, from a real world perspective, if you noticed a snake in the garden and it saw you, it wouldn't automatically head in your direction to mess up your day. But if you go within a foot of it and start pogoing around like a lunatic, there's a good chance it's going to try to fuck you up. And that's even before you start tackling Bowser's minions and traps in each castle, who are after all only trying to protect their boss on his property from an intruder. And then once Mario has been identified as a threat, after that first level, he has been breaking and entering after all, or at a very minimum level trespassing on private property with a pinch of vandalism to boot, they will go to any means to stop him. Or at least what they are ordered to do so by their employer. So if cold hard cash and a sense of justice at any cost are just byproducts of Mario's motivation to keep rescuing Peach over and over and over and over and over, well, you get the picture. This leaves, as far as I'm concerned, one feasible possibility. Love. And that got me thinking. A lot of narrative driven games that I've enjoyed over the years that have stuck with me because of the story have had the subject of love as their driving force for the protagonists. In The Secret of Monkey Island, Guybrush Threepwood is initially driven to become a mighty pirate, but soon his priorities change when he meets the governor of Melee Island, Elaine Marley, and falls madly in love with her. Sadly for him, the ghost pirate LeChuck is also enamoured with the governess and decides to kidnap her, at which point Guybrush decides to rescue his beloved. Double Dragon also follows the same narrative, with the player becoming Billy Lee, out to release his girlfriend Marion from the possession of the Black Warriors gang and their leader Willie, with more than a little help from his twin brother Jimmy. Well, in 2-player anyway. A more modern take on the same tale can be found in Super Meat Boy, where Meat Boy is trying to avoid all sorts of dangerous obstacles in order to try and save his squeeze, Bandage Girl, from the evil clutches of Dr. Fetus. These 3 examples recycle the original principle of the brave knight attempting to rescue the stricken maiden from the grasp of whichever evil person suits the ebb and flow of the story. Though there are some games that have put an interesting spin on that classic formula concerning family rather than for an opted loved one. In Fallout 3, the main drive behind your character is to find your father, who one day leaves the underground vault you have grown up in for the outside world, and you, the player, ventures into the unknown of the capital wasteland in order to find him. In Fallout 4, the tables are turned as you are now the parent, and after being witness to a personal tragedy at the start of the game, you vow to avenge for your loss and find your missing son, Sean. In the same ilk, Sid Meier's Pirates has the hero scouring the Caribbean for his lost relatives, who were sold into slavery to pay off a family debt owed to the ominous Marquis de la Montalban when he was still a child. That, and to make a ton of money, and maybe bag himself a governor's daughter in the process. For a further twist on the aspect of family, you could look at Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1, where although the central character Lee isn't directly related to Clementine at the start of the game, they soon form a codependent relationship which benefits them both throughout the story. And by the very sad but predictable ending, the connection between them is so absolute it hits you right in the feels. Even a game like Altered Beast has love as its driving force, and not from the player character. He is just a pawn being used by the god Zeus, who resurrects a fallen Roman centurion and bestows bestial powers onto him in order to rescue his daughter Athena, kidnapped by a demon god called Neth. As long as he collects 3 power orbs within each level. No free rides from the king of gods, you have to earn that shit. These are all in essence based around the same influence, the recovery of something that is lost. There are some games, however, that have a unique view on the subject of love and how to interpret it as an interactive form. The Sims series lets you kiss, date, marry and woohoo anyone you like, young or old, male or female, and it seems with each iteration the options for gender, sexual orientation and sexual freedom keep getting bigger. And rather than being restricted by the technical side of the software, I think it's more to do with what is widely accepted as the norm, which in itself grows larger with every generation. This brings me to one of my most favourite gaming characters of all time, Larry Laffer. The Leisure Suit Larry series are the gaming equivalents to those sexual coming-of-age films you grow up with as a child. American Pie, Revenge of the Nerds and Porky's to name but a few. This 40-year-old disco suit wearing, cheesy talking schmoozer has a heart that's bigger than his brain, and although he always seems to end up in bizarre sexual escapades, all he's really looking for is that perfect partner, that one true love. The subject of love can span all genres of gaming, from platformers to puzzlers, first-person shooters to beat-em-ups, and although unoriginal in premise, the subject never gets old. So, why do I bring this up? Well, despite it being Valentine's Day, which seemed like an appropriate time to do this, seeing all those retro games available for the virtual console on the eShop had me contemplating what gaming has meant to me throughout my life. This year I am celebrating 25 years of being a gamer. Schools, friends, jobs, and even other hobbies have come and gone, but gaming has been my one constant. I have been privileged throughout this time to witness this leisure activity grow from a secretive, seemingly unhealthy, misunderstood pastime stereotyped by spotty nerds and middle-aged men in their parents' basement to a mass media outlet enjoyed by everyone, young and old, male and female, sometimes together and other times by yourself, but through gaming forums and websites, YouTube and Twitch, you're never alone. An outlet which today rivals the behemoths of television and film, both in money invested into the industry and money spent by the end user on the hardware, software and accessories required in order to enjoy this hobby to its fullest. Don't get me wrong, like any child growing up, gaming has had its teething problems, and some would say over the last few years gaming has been going through a very rough period. From software companies and distributors bleeding us dry with full games being sliced into pieces and distributed through DLC, season passes or as episodic content, to the actual content of the games themselves being certified and vilified by people unable to grasp the very essence of gaming as an interactive experience and see it as a threat to the traditional forms of media and so criticise it at every available opportunity. And let's face it, we don't do ourselves any favours. Over the past few years, we've had fellow gamers turning on each other through the acts of swatting, the act of getting armed police beating down the doors of popular streamers whilst they're streaming live on Twitch, for no reason other than jealousy, to gaming purists, outright verbally attacking people who are trying to shake off the stigma of what it means to be a gamer in some sort of twisted irony which seems to be lost on the attackers themselves. These dark times can't last forever. And I know with the fullest of hearts that these problems will work themselves out eventually. It feels to me that the very concept of what makes us gamers as a society is evolving at such a pace it's forcing all of us to adapt quickly or be left behind. And it's the people who think kicking and screaming the loudest will stem the flow of change on the horizon. But things have to change. They have to evolve. Evolution in its truest form is done by an entity to develop itself, to improve itself, and this can only lead to a purer, more fulfilling pastime for us all. To conclude, I love gaming, and I love being a gamer, and I love that my favourite hobby has grown into something which is widely acknowledged, widely accepted, and worth fighting for. Hang on, maybe I've just been looking at this all wrong. Maybe love is the wrong way to describe why Mario is continuously putting himself and those closest around him in mortal danger. Maybe it's because of obsession. Let's just spin this on its head for a second. Princess Peach is royalty. Royalty tend to have security guards protecting them at the very least. Maybe an army at their beck and call 24 hours a day. How could Bowser continually kidnap a member of the royal family without the guards around her getting wise to his dastardly plot? And why aren't they storming Bowser's castle and rescuing her? Maybe it's because she doesn't need to be rescued. Maybe that's why she's never in any of the castles in the first few levels. It's not that she's never been in there, she's just hightailed it as soon as she's heard Mario kicking at the front door. And then by the end of each game, she realises the only way to get this deluded guy to leave her alone is to play along with his damsel in distress fantasy before getting back with her true love, Bowser. Think about it. Peach, this eligible bachelorette, could hook up with any guy she wanted in the Mushroom Kingdom. Does she go with Bowser, this muscular, independent, powerful guy who has plenty of money lying around and a very large property portfolio, or does she settle for Mario, a middle-aged, roly-poly plumber who still lives with his brother? I know who I'd put my money on. Well, that's my childhood ruined.
Mario? What are you doing here?
I come to save you.
From what?
From him! The evil Bowser!
Seriously, didn't we take care of this in court? You're not allowed within 200 feet of us.
Now remember people, this is just my opinion on the games that have made an impact on my life. And opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got them, and at one time or another they're full of shit. But with that being said, I'd be interested in reading the comment section for your favourite games with the subject of love at the centre of the story. And maybe throw a like my way whilst you're heading in that direction. Thanks for watching.